Good afternoon. As you know, I'm Andy Nyan, although I usually go by Nyandy or just Andy. Hi, Miko. And hi, Speedwagon. Thanks for the reminder about the music. I was just trying to make sure I had everything straight, and and I'm glad to have somebody have pointed that out. Hope you both are doing well today. So, I'm actually here to this is my first chatting stream, and I'm here to talk about my mom, who died 2 years ago this week. So, thank you for coming, and yeah, I'm doing pretty well, Miko. Thank you. Getting everything nailed down was took a little bit more time than I thought. That's why I was starting just a little bit late. But I am doing great. I mean, thank you. Yeah, I'm using just a sec. Let me check it. It's a Windswept, which is a fantasy music channel. They actually have it available on Creative Commons, so that you can use it without copyright infringement, which I think is really, really nice. So I use them a lot when I'm doing art or now chatting streams. But yeah, as I said, I'm here to spend time talking about my mom, who was a really important, formative person in my life. I haven't really talked about her much because, honestly, it's really, even today, it's really difficult to talk about her with other people because of just how much I missed her. But I felt that I really wanted to share this with people because, honestly, I don't think I would be a VTuber today if it wasn't for the examples and that my mom gave to me, and how much she worked to make sure that I was to support me and to encourage me to do things I liked. Yeah, I didn't really talk about my mom too much when on Twitter or on stream, which it's always a little bit challenging to figure out what excuse me, what to say when you're talking about somebody who you've lost recently. But the one thing that I knew is that I didn't want to just have it be a loss. Like, it's really easy for people to, I guess, move on, and I never wanted to do that. My mom was, in many ways, the most important person in my life. Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of important people, but she meant so much and did so much for me. It's would have been a tragedy to let that part of my life go because of everything. But yeah, the reason that she was my greatest inspiration for becoming a VTuber was because of, well, she was very passionate about theater and performance art. And that's the reason I decided to become a VTuber more than anything. I mean, there were many reasons, well, several anyway, but the most important one was that, and here's Sam to help comfort me. Thank you, Sam. I was honestly very lost for a while after my mom died. I mean, you can't lose somebody that you really care about. Excuse me. You can't lose somebody that you really care about without having to spend a lot of time trying to figure out where you want to go with in the future. But because I knew how much she loved those things, how much she loved theater and performance art, it really helped uplift me and make me feel not so alone, because it meant that I was at least doing things that my mom cared about. I think she would too, Gavindale, but it really helps to hear that from other people. It's unfortunate that uh, it's unfortunate that many people, when they lose somebody they really care about, throw themselves into stuff that isn't related so they don't have to think about it. I mean, I understand why, and I will never criticize people for however they react when they're grieving. But it really, being a VTuber and doing this stuff really has helped me feel like my mom is still there beside me. And another reason that my mom was such a huge inspiration to me was because she was also a teacher. I was never actually in any of her formal classes, which is kind of funny and ironic, but she really did. She was like, I would say, and this isn't, pretty sure this isn't just me saying it because she's my mom, but she was one of the most effective and positive teachers I ever knew. She put so much work into teaching students, and I'm sure that she did that for me and my younger siblings too. She always believed that people would grow to meet positive expectations. Like they would, if you held a bar up and you wanted them to reach it, they would always go for it. And especially since she especially since she also didn't just hold up the bar, she helped them reach it. And I think that made such a huge difference. She made such a huge difference in every one of her students' lives. Because I mean, it's not, even the ones that didn't do so well in her classes, I think they still really enjoyed the classes and the fact that she went to such effort to make them interesting and enjoyable. Rather than just the usual, here's the material, now study it. Yeah, I think so too, Miko. That's one of the reasons that I've tried. I'm not very good at it, although I do my best. But that's one of the reasons I've always tried to do the same, to encourage people to do better and to do well for themselves. Because if you can always help people reach higher if you give them a boost. So it's kind of funny. I like to joke about cats being, not joke, but I like to talk about cats being my small cousins. The reason is because my mom, in addition to raising several children, she raised many cats. I actually can't remember every single one of them, but I think there were close to 20 cats during her life. So I had lots of small cousins. And it was really enjoyable getting to spend time with them, petting them. Even if a couple of them wouldn't even give me the time of day. Yeah, she was really big on cats and, excuse me, wouldn't really, she never met a cat that she wouldn't at least try to care for. I'll talk more about it as I continue, but that is always one of the most valuable things that I learned from her, is that you need to consider it. Like, she didn't so much think of them as people. She joked that they were aliens because they didn't think like humans did, which it's fair, but I always thought of them as they are much more human-like than most people actually recognize, because the whole business of, you see a cat do a spill, then they pick themselves up and clean themselves off, and then they're back to normal. And that's like most people. They try to mimic humans too, because that's what meowing is. They don't meow to each other, they meow to us because they're trying to copy what we say. I've seen a couple of videos on that, and it's really funny. But I know that my mom's cats really liked her because they always spend a lot of time with her. Several of them would actually go and sit on her desk or her chair because you know how cats are. They love the scent. I think you're right, Miko. How a person treats an animal or someone something that's under them really says a lot about them as a person. If you think of them as like I think of animals as kind of people. Like obviously we can't communicate particularly meaningfully for the most part, although I can understand my own small cousins pretty well. But there is no doubt that communication is going on and that it is a give and take relationship. Of course, my family also had dogs, which honestly, I've never had a problem with dogs, despite being a cat. I mean, I'm not big on them. I mean, some of them are really nice, some of them are really yappy. But for the most part, they've been really friendly and well behaved when I've been around them. So you know, you know that it's really neat when somebody can put that kind of love and care into a relationship with a pet or a animal companion, as I usually call them. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with dogs. It's just I think people take dogs for granted because they always show. Excuse me. They always show the love and attention to their owners, regardless of what their owners do. Whereas a cat, if you know that a cat loves you, if they actually, because of the way they act around you. Whereas you can't necessarily, it. Yeah, I like animal companions. I like it a lot better than pets. Although petting is still a fun thing to do. Excuse me. Because, really, they are it may be largely it's always a two-way relationship. um, I mean, we have to care for them because they can't open the food cans. Well, okay, sometimes they can get into the food, but people usually try to discourage that because it often makes a mess. But they rely on us to open the food up for them and give them love and attention, and then they give us love and attention in return. And I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that cats are like that. That was another thing that I wanted to mention. I mentioned that she had 20 cats that I know of, like over time. It wasn't all at once, of course, but that was because her and my mom were married for almost half a century. Sorry, her and my dad. Don't worry, my brain's a little bit got a little bit lost there for a sec. Sorry. 47 years, I believe, and that always made a huge difference to me, knowing that they were always there and always together. Um, excuse me. It, yeah, it's not something you see very often anymore, but the reason their relationship worked, and the reason I've tried to do that myself, is because, yeah, I mean, every relationship you're going to have up times and down times, but they persevered and made it work. Um, there's never any doubt in my mind that they both truly cared for each other. Even when they occasionally would yell or get upset, they still spent time together. They did stuff together. They did stuff with us, me and my siblings. I mean, helped us out. I mean, it was just such a loving, positive example of how how a person can live their life, how two people can live their life together and make things brighter and happier for everybody in their life. Yeah, it made such a huge difference. It really did. Because I know that I mean, I don't know too many people personally, but I've heard of people who come from broken homes and how that can really scar people. And that's one of the reasons why I try to be so helpful and friendly to people. on Twitter, on my Discord, here on the stream, because I know that that works, because I have that example from my parents in front of me, guiding me all the whole way. And that didn't just extend to the usual suspects. My mom, yeah, you're right, Nini. You can extrapolate that to society. How you treat the weakest or the most undertrodden is how really shows how healthy they are. And I wish more people acted like that. But the least I can do is my own best to help show other people how they should act, or at least how it works better to act that way. As an example of that, so I mentioned that my mom was in theater. Well, that meant that I met a lot of the people who were in what we now call the LGBTQIA community, because those people have always gravitated to theater. And so I met many of them. Even when I was younger and didn't know anything about it, I never saw them as anything but people. Like, the sexuality or any of the other stuff, just, it didn't matter at all to me. I could see that they were people, that they were good people, they did good things. They tried to help entertain, they tried to make life better for other people, and that's all that really matters in life. The rest of it is honestly, I mean, all the stuff, there are a lot of things that people seem to care about that don't make much of a difference. And so I've always lived my life believing that yeah, you're right, Nini. It's unfortunately super hard when you have to deal with when people act as if it's a dominate others or be dominated by. And the truth is, I don't think that works, really. I think the best society, the strongest society, is where people help to support each other and to give encouragement and help to people around them, just because that's the best way for other people to have for them to do the same to others. It's a ripple effect. It spreads outwards. And so, I mean, I've always tried to act like that towards other people, and I believe it's made a difference. That's one of the reasons I don't get into those, like, stuff happens in my life. It's not always fun, but I try to always, not so much ignore the downsides, the stuff that isn't so good, but to make to always help people understand that the positive stuff is what helps you move forward. It's like, even when things bad that are happen, as long as you have those people that you care about around you and are helping to support them, you can get through it. But excuse me. So, like I said, I actually knew a lot of people like that when I was growing up, and it always influenced my opinions and attitudes towards just people in general. It's why I have always done my best, or at least worked at it, to be supportive of people like that too, to just be friends with them and to help them. Yeah, you're right, Miko. Optimism, it's kind of an unusual thing. When you're optimistic about things, even when bad things happen, the optimism may sometimes seem like an illusion, but just looking for it helps you keep moving forward. If you just stop, you can't really go anywhere at that point. Like, the one of the movies that I watched, and it was one of my mom's favorite movies too. You might have heard of it, The Never-Ending Story. One of the scenes that always most affected me was the scene in the swamp. I believe it's a Swamp of Sorrow, but it might have been called something else, where Atreyu had to leave his beloved horse behind because his horse gave up. It was really horribly sad, but I was amazed that Atreyu kept going and had the strength to keep going and never gave up. And because he never gave up, yeah, it was very traumatic, yes. I mean, but at the same time, um, you got, it's kind of funny actually, Gavin. A lot of stuff from movies like that were actually super traumatic. Like another of the movies that my mom really liked was what was it called? Sorry, it's the rabbit movie. I can't remember the one where the rabbits who had to move. That's not gonna bother. That's gonna bother me now. But yeah, there were some really horrifying, traumatic scenes in that movie. Uh, but yeah, Watership Down. That's it. Yeah, there were. I actually had the chance to watch that again recently. And it was like, wow, this has actually got some pretty scary scenes in it. And it was marketed as a children's movie, but at the same time, yeah, you've got a good point there, Nanny. Cynicism, you don't necessarily want too much of it, but you've got to have some of it because if cynicism's like the rudder, we'll say. Optimism's like your boat, but you need cynicism to keep you moving forward instead of being buffeted by the currents of life. Being able to cynically look at something. Yeah, exactly. Because you got to have the optimism to move forward, but you got to have the cynicism to keep you moving straight. Otherwise, you can't control where you're going very well. And that's really one of the reasons why I'm taking the time to talk about my mom. I mean, 2 years after, that seems, I mean, it was a challenge thinking of doing this even 2 years afterwards, but I felt that it was a good time to talk about her. And here's one of the reasons why I really, really, really cared for my mom so much. Um, Many of you know about my one of my best friends, Cinna the Pixie. Well, my parents, Cinna actually, I've been living with Cinna for, oh, I think it's about 15 years now. Um, Cinna, I won't go into too much detail, but Cinna had to move in with me due to life circumstances. Yeah, I love Cinna too. But Cinna had to move in with me due to life circumstances, and I never even looked back. Cinna has been such a wonderful presence in my life. But my parents, after they met Cinna, hi, L. Jason. Yes, I agree with you. Cinna's great. We make such a good partnership. My parents were always super supportive of Cinna and me living together and being such good friends and roommates for so long. They always made sure Cinna was included in stuff. Even though Cinna's a little bit of a private pixie, which is fair. But she, my mom especially got along really well with Cinna because they both have something of teaching background. I mean, my mom's more into theater, but that's also English. So um, my mom and my parents would often come over and eat with the two of us, and we would end up talking afterwards. So my mom and Cinna always talked about teaching stuff. I wasn't that much of a teacher. So, I mean, I know how it works, but my mom has always been an incredible teacher. I can only admire how accomplished she was from the outside, although I have at least some ability with it. And it just meant a lot that my parents just were perfectly okay with Cinna the whole time. Because you know how it is when you've got somebody you really care about, and you're always so afraid of how your family will react to them, and it's just so nice when there's nothing. It's a complete nothing, that nothing happens. And it just made such a it made I'm having trouble figuring out what to say, because even today I don't have the words to really express how I feel, because it's just so it just makes me so happy. I want to gush, and it's like I stumble over my own words trying to figure out what to say. So I'll go ahead and start talking about my early life. Yeah, she did. She really did. And it made such a huge difference to have somebody like that in my life. You're right. You're right, Nico. It is super stressful when the family that you want to live with and the family that you grew up with don't get along. So it's even better when they do. And yeah, it's always been such a wonderful thing in my life that my parents were like that, just the way they were. It's not, you could tell it wasn't an act. Some of my earliest memories of my mom were of her working on her higher education degree. I won't go into specific details, but she had most of my life growing up. She was working on her dissertation, so I have a lot of memories of watching her at the computer typing stuff. I snuck in and used the computer every now and then, but most of the time I left it alone, because this was back in the days before autosaving was really a thing, so it just had to be really careful. And this was while raising several children and multiple cats. I just honestly thought of it as just the way things were, and I didn't realize how incredible of a feat that was until I got to be much older. Oh yeah, I am so happy for autosaving, because imagine losing stuff that you worked really hard on because you forgot to hit the save button. Ah, it has happened to me in the past. I did not like it. I wish it did. I really wish it did, Minnie. I want to know where the manual save function in life is too. It's I'd probably abuse save scumming if I knew where it was, though, so it might be for the best. But yeah, yeah. Oh, that would be absolutely hilarious, especially if you're dealing with a boss who's not the greatest, instead of just having to endure. But one of the things that I didn't really realize until I got... Yeah, everyone needs a quick save, L. Jason. One of the things I didn't realize for a long time until I really thought about it is that my mom pretty much every day would, after I was old enough to actually understand, would read and sing to me. I actually picked up the basics of both from hearing her do it and from mimicking her even before I went to school. Obviously, I had to learn how to do it in school, but it was one of the reasons I have those as passions is because my mom did them with me so much, especially reading. I mean, I won't say, I mean, I was an okay singer. I could hold a tune. I had plenty of breath control, but my idea of singing was loud and proud, which is, to be fair, a really good thing. But I couldn't really sing if I wasn't singing with all my heart. And I'm not poking fun at myself there, but there's a lot more to singing than that. But still, I've been trying, and it made it. It's one of the reasons that I still did singing for so long, even though I don't do it now. Right now, that's because I'm still. I felt that I stopped doing it once I became an adult for the most part. I mean, I would sing by myself, but that's not. I mean, I wanted to, when I sing for people, I want to do my best for them, and that means I had to learn how to sing completely differently than I used to. Because if you just sing really loudly into a microphone, it doesn't always sound good, we'll say. So I have been working on that. But that's one of the reasons for the kitty note on my shirt, because of the singing. But reading is, because of my mom, reading has always been a lifelong passion of mine. And I don't think it would have happened if it wasn't for her reading to me all the time. You know how it goes. What you do early in life sticks with you. And so I'm really happy that she did those things with me. I think I did review a little bit of that after you suggested it to me. I think that's definitely something we should take some time to do, Gavin, because I know what it's like to have something that you love how to do, but that you don't have the courage to do anymore, or feel like you can't do it as well as you want, so it's hard to do it. And even now, it's still difficult for me to actually sing in public. But I still have my mom's memories of that. In fact, one of the things that I really remember super well, because she always sang that song, "You Are My Sunshine," to me. She always said that I was her sunshine because I was so bright and cheerful around her. Kind of like I am in general. But just one of the reasons I am an orange cat is because of that. Because that way I can be sunny and cheerful without being super bright. I mean, I don't want to be blinding. I want people to feel comfortable around me. Yeah, I mean, the sun is okay if you don't have to deal with the super brightness. Like, the sun is like, cats like sun. Everybody knows that cats will find a patch of sun and sleep in it. But yeah, so I like to think of myself as a dim sun that's just warm and comfy to be around, rather than the super bright sun that's always in your face. Thanks, Miko. Yeah, it's amazing to think about that stuff. Yeah, I guess you could think of me as kind of that way too, Gavin, like a hearth. The sunshine hearth. But yeah, so school is always a difficult subject for me to talk about because I didn't get along with other students very well at all. I never understood why. It felt like they teased and provoked me a lot. Possibly because I stood out. Well, if you kids especially, if you stand out at all, they tend to poke fun at you, and if you can't roll with it, they'll just keep poking. And I do have my mom to thank for helping keep me mentally healthy during all that hard time. She, well, it's kind of a thing that you expect, but my mom always made sure to help me when I needed it. in terms of whether it was just talking with stuff about that happened at school or um, like homework. I mean, I don't remember very much of that time. It was, I mean, that was a long time ago. Most people don't remember, and I'm no exception, but I do remember some stuff. Um, like, one of the things I always do remember is my very first small cousin, as I call cats. This is something some of you may know, but that cat had very dark fur on top and white fur under on the belly. So I named him Sharky. He was really. I like to think of him as my first small cousin, but technically he was still my parents' cat. But I mean, he that cat spent a lot of time with me because I spent a lot of time with him, and I could tell that it was a very mutual, friendly relationship. Unfortunately, it didn't last very long. Sharky died when he was 3. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Sharky did that because he died when he was 3 years old, and I was really sad about it for a long time, and my mom helped me through that. What comforted me because of how sad it was, and they helped me to understand that the cat was still there in my heart, even though he wasn't physically there. He was still there for me. Like I was still connected to him. Yeah, I find it comforting to think of that a reincarnation idea. It's yeah, I couldn't find any pictures, otherwise I would have shared. I'll probably, if I can find one, because this was a long time ago. This was before digital cameras, unfortunately, so I have to actually have a physical picture. But if I can find one, I'll definitely share it, because I think you'd agree with me, very shark-like. One of the things that young me remembered the most is that the Sharky actually figured out how to jump into the top bunk of a bunk bed, despite it being like 5 feet off the ground. I was just amazed when I saw that. I mean, I've seen cats jump high, but I didn't expect that the cat could actually get up there that easily. So, yeah, very athletic. When Sharky died, one of the things that I most appreciated was that they made sure to give him a proper burial, including a relatively short service where we got to say things about him, me and my family members, and got to mark his grave and such. Because cats are, as I mentioned before, I consider them to be people. They're little furry people, but they're still people. So you have to give them their dignity and respect after their life as well as during it. Many people don't, unfortunately, but I do, and I've always firmly believed that you need to do that. And that's one of the reasons why I believe I have such good relationships with all of my current small cousins. This is later on, but the first cat that I had who I can truly consider mine was a calico who I named Kitten Caboodle. Because, the saying, the whole kitten caboodle, because she was a handful. She was aggressive towards this is when I was still living at my parents' house. She would always hiss at the other cats and didn't want to spend any time with them, and spent lots of time with me. I actually had to feed her in my room because she would not tolerate those other cats. She didn't always hiss at them, of course, but it was just easier to feed her in my room. I remember when one of the other cats kept trying to get into the food upstairs because they were hungry. And yeah, Nico, I think you're right. Personhood is a thing that should apply to any animal that you care about. I mean, whether whether it's a dog or a cat or a bird or a guinea pig, it just, if you care about them, then it's okay to think of them as a person. Because honestly, I believe all animals are capable of growing to meet how you treat them. If you treat them well with respect and dignity, they'll treat you well with respect and dignity, and that applies to a lot of animals that most people don't think of as being able to act that way. Gonna stretch a little. This is a bit of a non sequitur, but one of the things that kept remembering when I was planning this was how I would spend time helping my mom with the laundry. I mostly sorted the socks. Hi, Cinna. Yeah, thanks. I'll make sure to drink some water too. Yeah, you're right. Kitten tended to hide from, hide or stay away from people, from Cinna, from my parents, anybody who visited, other cats. For a while, she finally did end up getting used to them, as long as they didn't get too friendly with her. She was a very standoffish cat indeed. But yeah, so the laundry thing was really funny. I would help sort and lock the socks, and a lot of times, because I spent so much time being friendly towards my parents' cats, one of them would spend time in my lap. And during this, it was a nice comfy lap for them, and it was just such a warm, wholesome time, and not something you'd ordinarily expect. But doing things like that with somebody can really be a good way to bond with them. And I wasn't as good about doing some of the other chores, because kids don't like doing chores. But yeah, I've actually started watching some of Jackson Galaxy's stuff as well, because you're right, cats do talk to us. Many people don't listen. It's not that they talk so much with their mouths. I mean, they'll yell at us with meowing. That's actually what meowing is. It's literally yelling at us to get our attention. But the twitch of an ear, the way their tail moves, their posture, it all makes it's all communication, and they're trying to communicate with us. And all we have to do is just look at them and pay attention to them in turn. And don't overwhelm them trying to be friendly. I mean, they love attention, but it's usually on their terms. If you let them come to you on their terms, they'll love you forever. If you try to force it, they'll be wary around you. So another thing, I wanted to make sure to spend some time talking about my mom and the theater stuff. She did a lot of community plays while I was growing up. I did act in quite a few of them, especially the musicals. I may not have been a particularly great singer, but the fact that I had a strong voice and could hold a tune meant it was easy for her to use me in roles that needed it. I don't remember too many of them, but it was always a very it was always a very interesting experience, even though I didn't especially like I didn't dislike it at all, but it never felt quite. It's really hard to explain how I felt about it back then because of the way that it worked. So yeah, you're right, Ninny. I have seen this too many times, and I've seen this many times with my own small cousins. Some of them really do like it and will take it forever, but many of them, too much, and it's like uncomfortable. And they will actively push you away. And if you keep trying, they'll be forceful about it. And yeah, one of the funny things about my newest small cousin, Graybell, is actually good at doing a don't do that without being harsh about it. He will simply push his leg up and push my hand away if he's done with something. And I listen to him when he does that because it makes it so that he's much more willing to tolerate other kind when I do give him attention. If I just kept petting him where he felt he had no choice, he would probably not be as friendly as a cat as he is. But yeah, it's I had mixed feelings about acting for a long time. I kind of liked it, but because of the issues I had with school, I wasn't too comfortable around people. When you get picked on for things that you don't have a lot of control over, it's really easy to just turn your back on them. I've always said that I'm a cat, and that's part of it. I've noticed that people often do use things like teasing to help get along with people, but I don't think any of them were observant enough to realize that my reactions were pretty much, stop it, I don't like this. And instead of stopping it, they'd keep going. So it completely links into what you said, Nanny, thanks. That people, I think people are much more willing to put up with it than, even though they don't like it. But especially when I was young, I was very much a cat back then. It's like, stop bugging me. Pretty much. And it's just one of those things that I wish people would pay more attention to. And truthfully, that I think that's something I'm going to start working on. I'm no Jackson Galaxy, but I think I can start doing stuff like that. Honestly, I think that'll help. Just to help people understand cats better too. Because, you can't know me and not know that I absolutely adore my small cousins, but one of the reasons I do is because I don't keep pushing. I don't keep pushing at it. I don't keep trying to make them do stuff that they're not comfortable with. If I can tell that they don't want to do it anymore, I'll just let them go. Of course, sometimes it's hard for me to tell if Loki is seriously done with it or is just trying to get me to play with him, because sometimes he will walk up to me, and then one of the games he used to play is he'd walk up and I try to pet him, he'd back up, and if I ignored him, he'd walk up again. So I think he was trying to get me to pay attention to him. But yeah, because he was always a very energetic and athletic cat too. He could jump up to the deadbolt on the door. Yeah, you're right, Ninny. Gags do need to be retired. They're funny for a while, but no joke stays funny forever. It's like the timepiece thing was funny for a while, but truthfully, I get distracted. You know how cats are. They can focus on one thing for a while, but it's if they focused on one thing, they'll miss other stuff. You can have them, if you try to get their attention with the red dot, and they're actually interested in snacks, or they're resting, they often aren't really interested for a while. And yes, onto the actually above the deadbolt. He was going after the red dot. Yeah, exactly, and that's one of the reasons why if I sometimes tend to jump, be a little bit jumpy, that's because I have that same level of focus. You know, I am a cat after all. Kind of like that book by Soseki-san, who I can never remember his last name. The one who wrote I Am a Cat. Loki decided to walk under the chair, so I gave him a little bit of petting. It's always funny how he'll walk right in front of me and wait and let me pet him, but doesn't stick around. Or although sometimes if he really wants attention, he will run and jump. Oh yes, that reminds me. I actually have a picture, which it's really hard to find because I have so many pictures. Loki figured out how to get on top of the closet door in my room. I think it was because he was able to rebound off of a couple of plastic crates that were in the room that I was, because this is not long after we moved into this new place. And I got like 2 pictures of him. One with him looking proudly like, I am so happy with myself. And then looking down like, this is high. Yeah, Soseki Natsume. Thank you, Nini. Loki actually is really funny. When he was really young, he would absolutely insist on climbing up me and getting on my shoulder. He's always been enchanted by heights. He's gotten a little old. He's like 8 or 9 years old now, so he's gotten a little. He's slowing down a little, not too badly, but he doesn't really do the super athletic stuff anymore. But it was still such an amazing thing to see this orange ball of fluff just able to do incredible super feats of super catness. Okay, sorry. I like to stretch. I need to make sure to stretch more, so I am doing that more frequently because it's easy to slouch when I am chatting. Well, just in general, but especially when I'm chatting. Yes, feats of Super Cat. Loki is Super Cat. I need to figure out how to give him a Superman style cape. That would be funny. You know, like those old pictures of Crypto. Except I honestly think they missed a trick there. They should have had the pet be a cat. Because that would have been incredible, watching this super-powered cat just doing these things that... Because, you know, you kind of expect that from a dog, but a cat really makes it something. Yeah, the interesting thing was when I didn't help doing the acting with my mom, like I wasn't acting in the plays she would direct, I actually oftentimes would help out in the backstage, and that gave me a really interesting perspective on what you need to do to make a play work, because it's not just the fact that there's weeks of rehearsals and such. You have to have the people who help change the set around. You have to have the people who help with costuming. You have to have somebody to help keep everybody organized. You have to, and you have to do this in a short period of time with the, without making much noise, and with people who can't really see super well. I mean, because they have some lights on, but in general, this happens when the stage lights are turned off, so there's only some background lights. So it was always really interesting to see just how much effort went into making these plays successful. So, when I was finally did clear high school, and I use that deliberately, I did not like school very much when I was a kid, and that just continued until I finally did clear high school. Um, as in, it wasn't, most people talk about graduating from school. I've always, when I was younger, I always thought of it as just, well, I'm happy to be done with it, but it was just not a lot of fun. And, nobody thinks of school, I don't think any student really thinks of school as fun unless they're in one of the cliques. Um, for most people, it's just you get done with it and then you do something else. So that may be where the whole graduation idea came from, that's used for other things. But for me, it was definitely I'm glad to be done with this. So it was interesting though. My mom really valued higher education, so she helped me get enrolled in a 2-year technical school. And I won't say that was an interesting experience. Like, I don't think I was mentally ready to continue higher education at that point. I think I would have done much better if I had actually had some time to spend reflecting and thinking about where I wanted to go. Although I did my best, and I did get a degree, I did get an associate's degree out of it. But that never really translated into anything, so I ended up spending time continuing to live with my parents for a while. And to their credit, especially my mom, she accepted it. She didn't get upset that I had trouble with the higher education stuff. I think she recognized that I just needed the time to figure out what I wanted to do with my life instead of doing what she wanted to. I did do the higher education stuff because it was important to her, so it was important to me. But it's hard to really put the kind of effort into it that you need to unless you have a personal reason to care about it, and I didn't at that time. But that said, the fact that my mom and dad did actually stood by me despite that, gave me the time and support that I needed to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And, well, yes, they did encourage me to to look at getting employment and such, and I mean, I understand why, but they never forced the issue. Like, there was never any you have to do this, and that you see a lot of times with other people. Yeah, classrooms, you really do get tired of the classroom setting, especially in the regular schools, in the regular public school setting. Because unfortunately, like it or not, the public schools, it's compulsory. You don't have a choice. So it's like you want to do something else with your life once you get done with school. You don't want to just go back and sit down and do more school. I mean, maybe some people do, but I definitely didn't. One of the things that my mom did during this time, I mean, it was just the things she did. It wasn't specifically because of it. She would actually make gifts for me and my siblings. Not just buying a gift or a card, although she did get cards, and some of them were funny. Although she was a little fond of the musical cards, which I didn't mind it. It was funny. And it's not like it was done all the time. Once in a birthday is perfectly fine as far as I'm concerned. But she would make gifts that reflected the stuff that I was doing. Yeah, they're super silly, Miko. You're right about that. I remember one she got me, which was literally a recording of a cat singing happy birthday. So meow 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 meow, things like that. I think she got one of my siblings who actually really likes dogs. Something similar, but with a dog woofing. You'll excuse me if I don't do that, though. But yeah, she'd make the gifts out of nothing. She'd start with something. Actually, that reminds me. she'd been doing this for a long time. Like, she would take old cable spools, like the really big ones, not the ones that you use for thread, but like actual cable, and she'd paint them and decorate them and then use them as tables. I thought that was really neat. And the gifts that she'd make for my siblings and I were similar. Like, she'd take like something simple, like a box, and then she would paint it and decorate it. Yeah, it's a foreign language, and I am working on foreign languages, but I find Nihongo to be it's Nihongo, not Nihongo. Or rather, it's Nyanhongo for me. I mean, I could probably learn how to do it, but I'd rather learn the Ni, Nyan. I'd rather learn Nyanhongo first. So those gifts, like she would put in stuff, like it was glued in with the other decorations, but like things that represented the stuff that we'd been doing that year. Like at one point, I was really interested in Aikido, so she'd had a little representation of a gi added. The year I finally graduated from college, which I'll talk about in a little bit. She had a one of the graduation caps in there, like as one of the decorations. One of the most special times in my life, my mom had to move to a different state because she needed to get a different job. But because at least I believe one of my youngest sibling was still going to school, they didn't want to take him out of school and that school and go to a completely different school system. So they split up. I moved with my mom so she wouldn't be alone, and my dad stayed with my siblings so that they could get everything taken care of without having to rush. And it was honestly one of the best times of my life. Not just because I kind of got my mom all to myself. I mean, to some degree that's true, but the truth is, I just really liked spending time with my mom, and it was always really nice to just have that time with her. I believe we had a dog who kind of, well, let's just say the dog did not like being alone, and so it was always an interesting time coming back. Also, I had a cat who, this is an interesting story. The cat actually, at one point, managed to sneak out and had vanished after that. And my mom was always really upset. I helped put up posters and everything. And then, like, a month, and it's like a month passed and no cat. And we were like, okay, well, hopefully he's okay. And then one day he just reappeared out of nowhere. My mom was just so happy to see him again. She always called him her miracle cat after that. Because, it's not a fun situation when you have, when a pet just gets lost. An animal companion, I mean. You don't know what happened to them, so you never get the closure. That was actually also a time when I got a cat who was, it was, we got a cat, not me got a cat, but I called her Graceless because she was a gray cat. It's not a calico, not a tabby like Gray Bell. Actually had the, I don't know how to describe it, but had those patterns with like gray, and then there were other colors, but it was not like a calico either. But kind of missing social graces, thus graceless. Once my family did reunite, after I'd spent a while figuring out what I wanted to do with my life, I decided that I actually wanted to give higher education another go. And my mom, Graceless, although it was Grayceles. It's kind of a silly name, yeah. But then again, if the name fits. But yeah, the higher education, there was so much of a difference between I was doing it because I felt like it was important to my parents, to my mom, and I was doing it because it was important to me. My mom was actually really happy that I did, um, and excuse me. So that was when I moved out of my parents' house because, well, it was a big house, but I wanted to live a little bit closer to my school, so I didn't have to spend a while driving. It was close enough that I could easily drive there and back in a day. I mean, like I guess less than an hour's drive, so it was definitely doable. But it was easy. It was easier for me to study when I was living on, like, not on campus, but living in the same in closer to campus. Like I lived a few blocks away as opposed to in another small town. But the nice thing about that is that I still lived close enough I could visit my parents frequently, and I did. I always made sure to come back over and would do stuff for them. In fact, I actually started helping them, like with cleaning and such, when I was over, just so that I could just show them some of what they meant to me. In fact, that was actually the time I met Cinna. Cinna, I won't go into all the details here, but Cinna needed needed a place to stay, and so I said, "Hey, I've got a 2-bedroom. You're more than welcome to come." And so we've been living together ever since. And as I mentioned earlier, my parents were always super accepting of Cinna, and that meant so much to me. I mean, I could probably go on for a long time about that, just saying how much it meant. Yeah, life is really funny sometimes how those things just work out. Because it's true, Cinna and I mean, it hasn't been always super smooth. There's no relationship is perfect, but the truth is, I'm a much better person because of Cinna than I would have been on my own, and I hope the same. I believe the same is true. Go the other way, that we are stronger together than we would be apart. I mean, and it was just like I said, those meals where Cinna would make food for for us to eat together and just spend time with each other were really special and important to me. And of course, we would go over to my parents' place every now and then. I mean, I would go myself a lot more. Cinna was had to focus on school, we'll say. So, and didn't, it was just hard to work out the schedules for actually driving to the other town. But we did go every now and then, and it was really a wonderful time. So that said, that time came to an end when I graduated, although Cinna was still going to school. I was actually the first member of my family, aside from my mom, immediate family, to graduate with a college degree, and I actually graduated with honors despite the apathy about school from when I was younger. And I truthfully think the reason I was able to do so was because my mom was always encouraging and supportive of me, not to mention loving. In fact, I know that was the case because, yeah, it really, you don't think much of it until you actually go back and look at this stuff. It's like, wow, I didn't really realize until I actually went back and for this stream. It's like, wow, I really was the first, and it really did happen because of my mom. I didn't, the way I was when I was had graduated high school, I probably never would have gone to college, or at least I might have, but it wouldn't have been likely. But my mom's encouragement helped me become better in that respect. Uh, but the reason that I know it was important that my mom's support mattered so much to me is because I actually sought out employment at the school that my mom and dad worked at. I kind of did computer work there, we'll say. And I did a pretty good job there. I believe after I graduated, I actually worked there for almost, I'm not sure exactly how long, but I believe it was 7 or 8 years full time, and plus some, I'd actually gotten some part-time employment before I graduated as well. So, it wasn't the greatest place to work at. I mean, it was a small private college, so it didn't pay the best, we'll say. But the fact that I got to be close to my parents still, and since it was in the town that my parents lived in, Sin and I ended up moving back there after she graduated. So we actually were able to go and do stuff for my parents, yeah, work is work. It's more important you do something that you're comfortable with and that you like doing. Like I remember one point, Sina and I actually painted a room for my parents when they went on a trip. And I mean, it was a hard work, but it was actually quite fun. And I mean, as fun as painting can get, but we had a surprising amount of fun with it, and my parents really appreciated the effort that we put into to making it look good. Of course, since this was the room that my parents' cats spent most of their time in, it got clawed up a bit now and then, but you know, that's just the way that's just the way cats are. Oh yes, you're right, I forgot about that. We did paint my niece, Little C. And actually, now that I think about it, didn't we also paint the upstairs hallway outside of it? I know we worked in there at one point. We also spent time helping them. Oh yeah, 2 different painting jobs. Yeah. And we spent time working on the patio backyard, helping get it cleaned up and organized. It's mostly just lots of leaves. You know, they had a pecan tree in the backyard, and the thing would regularly shed leaves and even dead branches. So both of them, to be honest. Oh, that's right. I knew the stairwell got painted. I just wasn't sure if I helped. Yeah, now I remember. Yeah, that was the one time I actually got to go on a family vacation with my parents after I became an adult. One thing I actually forgot to mention was that when I was younger, while my siblings and I were all growing up, we actually my mom went to a lot of theater conferences. I think it was called the ACTF. But we turned them into family vacations, so I actually got to go to quite a few neat places. Like, I don't remember all of them, but we certainly went to California once, and we went to Seattle once. I remember because I got to see the view off of the Space Needle, which was really incredible. Yeah, I almost forgot about that. I'm glad you mentioned the family vacation, Senna. But yeah, one of the reasons that Senna and I started contributing so much with my parents helping out is because, I mean, I mentioned that they were married for 47 years. Well, I'm not exactly young myself, but, let's see. If I remember correctly, like not counting, I'm not gonna obviously give exact ages and such, but they were definitely getting up there in years. And I could sort of see, I wanted to make sure to spend time with them, not just, not just doing the usual thing that you see with adults once they have moved out of their parents' house, where they just spend time with them for holidays, actually doing stuff with them. And so, like, my mom and dad, and sometimes various of my siblings, including me, would oftentimes go to a local uh, performing arts center, PAC, and we watched plays there. It was really amazing, some of the work they went to. Um, I especially remember The Lion King. It was really, really, really good because it was the Broadway musical version. So they had these puppet type things that they'd used to make themselves look more like the animals that they were representing. And I mean, it was just such an amazing thing to see in real life rather than on a screen, like on a movie screen, or on the TV for that matter. Like, I saw Hamilton there too. I mean, Hamilton was great. I still remember the songs were so silly sometimes, like the one that the king sings about how he's uh, upset about the colonies wanting to leave him, and that they'd miss him when he was gone, and he'd bring them back with the 16-inch guns or whatever it was. I don't think it was actually 16-inch guns. I don't remember the song that well, but it was pretty funny to say the least. Lots of stuff like that. Speaking of, my mom, while she was at that college, actually did a theater program, and I didn't act in most of those plays. I did help out, but especially when they needed to remodel the stage. But one of them I did. It was honestly one of the inspirations of my mom. It's Jesus Christ Superstar. You might have heard of it. It was the first time I had acted for several years, and so it ended up being pretty stressful for me, but we made it a success. And I mean, it really was a success. Like, they had pretty much a full house the whole time. The excuse me. So I can't really sing any of the songs right now because I would like to, but I believe they are copyrighted, and maybe at some point I will, but not right now. But yeah. Oh, really? I didn't know that. Yeah, I'll definitely have to talk with him about that, because I can talk about my experiences acting in a local production of that. And yeah, I didn't know that. Thanks for mentioning it. So she also liked Shakespearean plays. I didn't ever act in any of them, but I remember watching it. I watched every single one of her plays, whether or not I was directly involved. Oh, my mom loved Phantom of the Opera. I actually can still, I mean, I never learned any of the songs, but the Phantom of the Opera inside my mind. It was just, I never really understood it very well, because it was I mean, aside from it was a opera enthusiast who, I can't remember it very well, but it was like he wanted the he wanted the play to be perfect, I think, and would mess it up if people wouldn't, and kept insisting on training like the lead actress so she could do the best possible job that she could. Yeah, it was a fantastic opera. Well, okay, musical, but close enough. Les Mis too. I remember seeing that the performance of that at one point. Actually, another one of the plays that my mom really liked was Man de la Mancha, you know, the famous Don Quixote. It was actually really funny watching that on stage. She had a fairly elderly gentleman playing the role of Don Quixote, and he just sold that role so well because you could tell that he really did he really embodied Don Quixote and had a great singing voice too. Yeah, and it's just, I mean, my mom really loved plays, and even though I didn't act at that point, I'd, yeah, I would definitely recommend watching it at some point. It is absolutely worth it. So yeah, even though I had I thought, grown out of being interested in acting and such, it still mattered a lot to me. That's going back to what I said at the very beginning. My that's part of why I became a VTuber. I mean, I'll be honest, even today, I really miss my mom. I wanted to talk to her on stream like this, not just because to help, not just to share her with people. I mean, I believe it's important to talk about things like this, but it honestly was very painful for me for a long time, so I couldn't. I mean, you know how it is when you're hurting about something. It's just very difficult to want to talk about it. I think now I am actually ready to talk, as you've heard. And that's another reason I wanted to talk about my mom on stream like this, is because I really wanted to celebrate my mom's life and the person she was. That's why this is called a celebrating my mom's life, rather than like remembering my mom or things like that. Yeah, you're right. I still have that happen every now and then, where my throat clenches up and it's hard to talk at all. It's like, it's still very sad. I don't want to. So all I'll say about it is, I did get to spend that last day with her, and it was honestly the saddest day of my life, which is one of the reasons I had so much trouble talking about it for so long. But the truth is, and this took me a while to realize, is that, and this goes back to what my mom taught me about that little cat shark I mentioned, Sharky. It's easy because of how impactful a moment like somebody dying is, that you literally can't see past it. Like, it's so big, that's all you can see. And one of the things that I realized, and that's why I wanted to do this stream, is that big moment or not, it is still just a moment, and there are all the moments before. And I wanted to remember those as not just I don't want my mom's life to be defined by that last day. I want my mom's life to be defined by all the days that came before that, and by all the days that her example helped inspire me, that her example inspired me with. And it's truthfully, I wanted to keep that part, because she nurtured that part that loved the performance and theater and such, and singing even though I haven't done that for a while. She nurtured that, and I realized, yeah, it is important, Miko. I realized that I had really two paths in front of me once I had gotten past the initial stuff after my mom died. I had either the path of just letting all that be in the past, like just I'd always remember it fondly, but it would just not be part of my life anymore. Or I would make it part of my life from then on. And I'm sure you can guess, seeing me here, what I chose. And I believe that was 100% the right choice. If I hadn't done that, it would have been a tragedy, and not the kind that you like to watch. You know how it goes. Truthfully, I may not be the best VTuber out there. I mean, I believe very strongly in what I'm doing. I just mean there are VTubers out there who are more skilled than I am at it. In terms of how much I love this, I believe I match up to the greatest ones, the ones who are famous. That's why I've been able to keep doing this for a year and a half, because that's the other thing. It was almost 6 months to the day when, after my mom's death, that I started VTubing. And that wasn't an accident. I could have easily made excuses or justifications for why I needed to focus on getting better before I went out there. And instead, and it was kind of a spur of the moment decision, instead I went, no, I'm just gonna start doing this, and it doesn't matter if I'm especially skilled at it, I'll get better. But if I didn't want to end up in the situation where I would not actually do it. Like, I would spend so much time practicing it, trying to get better, that I wouldn't actually ever get started doing it. Because that's happened a couple of times in my life. Usually with art, I spent a lot of time trying to get good at doing art, not realizing that the part of getting good is showing it to people. You're right, it is, Miko. Every idol performer, or whatever, every idol starts out little. No matter how skilled they are or aren't at it, it's what they put into it that matters. Like, you got to put in the time to do it. Like, even if it's just being out there and maybe not doing yeah, you're right, Nico. I had so much trouble getting past that when I was younger. Like, you may have seen some of my art. I had a bit of a perfectionist tendency when I was young, which my mom, to her credit, tried to help me with, but I was too stuck on it to move past that for a long time. Where if I didn't think it was good enough, I would keep trying to do it better instead of showing it to someone else and seeing what they thought. Such a simple thing, and I've started doing that. Like, you've seen some of my works in progress. They may not be the best art, but they are legitimately art, and that's how you get better at stuff. Is you put yourself out there, you keep working at it, and you don't. Yeah, I actually haven't quite got. I had to put that aside for a couple of days, but yes, I am continuing to work on it. I'm almost done doing a line art version of it, so that I can then color it. Like, instead of the very rough sketch that I showed you, so for some people may not have seen it, it's a picture of me giving the lamb from Cult of the Lamb a hug, because that lamb is so cuddly. And so, I mean, you can't help but want that little lamb to succeed. But yeah, that's the point. I mean, even line art, because I care about, you can see just with the rough sketch, which is on Miko's Discord and also my Discord, is you can see that there's legitimate feeling there, like, because of how I feel about it. And that's something I didn't understand for a long time. That's the reason you show it to other people. It's not that you can't, like, there are people out there who can do incredible art. way better than anything that I can currently produce. But they didn't start that well. They got that well because they kept doing it and because they legitimately cared about it. And that's something my mom taught me. That I had her example in front of me my whole life of somebody who was legitimately passionate and cared very much about what they were doing. I was honestly, because it was always there, I didn't realize. I won't say I took it for granted. It's more that it was always there, so I didn't realize how extraordinary that actually was. And I mean, that's one of the reasons why, even though I still miss my mom, I will undoubtedly continue to miss my mom. But I want her. Yeah, art training is like any other kind of. Yeah, like any other kind of schooling. If you just do the training, it's like, okay, why you've forgotten why you were doing it to begin with. I mean, yeah, you wanted to get good at art. That's actually the trouble I kept running into. I kept working so hard to get good at art. Like I'd draw stuff, and then I wouldn't be satisfied with it, and I'd redraw it. Or other things, I'd start on something, would be unsatisfied with it, I'd redo it, and then I'd redo it, then I'd keep editing it, and unfortunately never got to a point, and I'd spend so much time editing it that it'd be like, why was I doing this again? And I just set it aside. Passion is something you have to nurture. My mom had to do this I'm sure my mom had to do this all the time. She had to be very nurturing of her own passion. Otherwise, if she wasn't, I can't imagine her of just being able to continue doing the passionate art that, actually, not sorry, that is art. I mean, performance art is still art. And, excuse me. And she, it's because she nurtured it. Partially because she had such a huge amount of passion for it. And partially because, she did stuff that helped keep it fun for her. I really think that's the reason why she would go and watch plays, not just work to do her own plays, the hard work. She'd go and do stuff to remind herself of how fun it was. And I wish I'd realized that much sooner. I'm not always been the best at figuring stuff out just by looking at it, but that is, I'm sure, why my mom was able to make theater and performance art her lifelong passion. And it's like I'm really glad that I decided to do this, because thinking about it, it's like all these things that I never truly noticed are suddenly coming into focus because I'm thinking about them all at once, laying it all out side by side, and finally realizing what it is that I missed all those years. That it's like, if my mom was never a VTuber, she I think she would have really enjoyed it, and that's one of the reasons why I've been able to keep doing it. But I think if she had been one, she would have made sure to watch so many other VTubers, because then she can enjoy what they're producing. Yes, learn from them too, but you have to enjoy. The point is that it helps you. Watching other people and getting inspired from them and enjoying what they do helps stoke your own passion for what your own art is. So yeah, I'm really glad that I'm glad you mentioned that, Gavin, because I hadn't fully understood this Like, this is one of those things where I tend to overthink things. You may have noticed. Um, in fact, Cinna has put up a little thing on my by the door to my streaming room. It's like, just a moment, I have to overthink this. But the truth is, and I'm glad I did this, is that by spending the time with making all the connections, it's like, oh, that's why the VTubers who succeed do succeed, or streamers in general. They don't just do their own thing. They're out there in being part of the community and enjoying what the other members of the community produce. It's like you have to spend time with other people too. Like, not just a matter of enjoying the content, but helping to promote it. Like, I do some of that. Yeah, it's very, very, very collaborative. It's something I wish more streamers in general realized. I think many of them do, to be fair. But I think a lot of people come into this kind of like I did, where they think of it just unconsciously think of it as this is how it is. Like, this is something I have to do. Like, and I'm the only one that can do it. And to be fair, yes, you have to put your own effort in. But it's not just you. I mean, Miko, you've been so supportive of me and so helpful. Ninian too. I mean, Cinna, Gavin. I mean, you all have been so helpful to me in my times of need. I don't know that I'd still be here without all the effort and time and energy you put into helping me out. And it's like I've not always very good at picking up on cues, I mean, but it's like suddenly it's all come together for me. And it's because I did this, because I made sure to look at my mom's life as something, not just to talk about it, although I definitely am happy that I talked about it, but to look at it as something like, okay, this is obviously why I got into this. Let's look at the stuff, let's talk about it with people and look at the stuff that actually made, like why it made a difference. And yeah, I'm glad you feel the same way, Miko. That's why I like being supportive of other people. I think I did understand it, I just didn't realize that it's a two-way street. Like, I was always very supportive of everyone else, but didn't recognize that it really does have to work the other way around. Like, it's kind of like what I was saying about cats earlier. If you love and care for animal companions like cats or dogs, they will absolutely do the same back to you. And it's always a two-way street. And it's like, that was one of the reasons why I sometimes would not so much struggle, but why I had trouble figuring out what to do much of the time. When I'm VTubing, it's sometimes difficult for me to keep my thoughts straight because I was so distracted by the whole I was so distracted by the whole business of I have to do my best because this is for my mom, that I didn't connect the dots in my head and go, okay, but why is it so important to do this for my mom? I mean, it's not just that I can't just do it for my mom. I have to do it for me. I mean, doing this because of something that I know my mom would have loved is very important. But it's like I said about my schooling. I can only do something so long if I feel like it's an obligation. If it's a passion, and to be fair, VTubing has been a passion of mine. but I hadn't consciously thought about it. It's if it's a passion, you have to take in passion from other people too to help keep your own topped up. They're producing passion and giving it away for free to other people. So you spend time, so you use that to fuel your own and then to send it out to other people. And it's like this unbroken chain of passion. Yes, Senna, thank you for the hydrate reminder. And yeah, it is. I, I've always realized that you have to give. Like, because you can't. Nobody's an island, as the saying goes. You have to help support other people that you care about. Unfortunately, it's really easy for people to fall into the trap of thinking that they can only rely on themselves. And the truth is, there's only so much any one person can do. And so, being out, yeah, I think that's something I'm going to keep much more close to the forefront of my mind in the future. That letting other people help inspire me by doing their VTubing, their art, not just admiring it because it's pretty or because they do a good job, but genuinely enjoying it and recognizing the passion that they put into it and the hard work, and using that to push me forward. And then when that way my own performances have some additional strength to them, and then that goes out to other people. Yeah, that makes me really happy that I made sure to do this. I like that saying, Nico. That's great. I'd never heard that before. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Yeah, that's true. I mean, it reminds me of something I said. Humans, our real strength, people, I should say, not just humans. Because, we got an Oni in here, we got a vampire, we got a cat, other people. The people's strength is that they work together on stuff. We help each other move forward. Not just one person. I mean, yes, not persons, including humans, but not just humans. It's a little slip there, but no biggie. There's a manga that I read a while back. It's the Food Wars manga. Okay, leaving aside the innate silliness of the manga, they did have a few things that made some really good points. Like, they talk about having to travel the food wasteland. Like, good visuals of people literally wandering around and getting buffeted by some pretty awful things. And, like, it's really hard for them. And that the people who truly succeed are those who they don't just have passion for themselves. I mean, everybody who started to travel that had passion, but they also got inspiration from other people, and then helped to inspire those people and to do better themselves, and thus worked together and got stronger and made better food. And it's no different in VTubing. I mean, that was always a really influential thing to me, even with the innate silliness of some of the stuff they did in that manga. Yeah. So yeah, that's really important to remember, and to be fair, not always the best at remembering things like that. It's sometimes a little bit challenging for me to keep things straight in my head. That's one of the reasons I tend to overthink. I think my mom talked about it too. It's like, she would always tell me, don't think too hard about stuff. Sometimes you just have to do. Like, yeah, thinking about things is fine, but you have to put things out, make things, and do them for people. And I think that was really, in part, why she would always make those thoughtful gifts. Like, make them, not just go out and buy something pretty. It's because then she could show that she recognized what people cared about and make things so that they would see that she recognized it and be further inspired. I can't believe it. There's so much deep meaning in that stuff that because I never understood it, just missed. And it just means so much now that I'm actually thinking about it and realizing what was going on. Such an amazing person my mom was. I mean, even after she died, she still had so much. She was able to inspire me to do this and to keep doing it. Yeah, I would actually make things for people too, like for parties. Instead of just, like, I would sometimes, like, for gifts, I would sometimes just buy stuff, because I don't always have time, especially if you don't realize it in time. But I'd make things so that it was not just some thing that came out of a store. Or if I had to buy something, I would go and look for something that had special meaning to them. So it was kind of the same thing. Like if I got my mom something for, say, Mother's Day, I wouldn't just buy a pretty thing that said, "Thanks, Mom," or something like that. I would go and get something that was her. Yeah, like that, Cinna, you're right. And yeah, Cinna does that. You might have seen in my most recent, the pictures that I posted on my birthday, how Cinna would make those paper decorations that were on the presents. And I mean, I love those things. I've still got them. Cinna and I put them on one of the walls, so that they'd be there and I could always remember them. Even little things like that make a difference. Yeah, so that makes me really, really happy that I did this, because, I mean, I'll be honest, when I first thought of this idea, I wasn't quite sure where I wanted to go with it. It was like so many things. It was just this idea that came out of nowhere, and the more I thought about it, it's like, I want to do that. I want this to actually be a thing I do, not just... I like game streaming, but this really does have the potential to be really valuable for me. I mean, for everybody, not just me, of course. But I won't say I disregarded chatting streams, but I always thought that the person doing the chatting stream just somehow could randomly come up with stuff the whole time. And it's not until I actually sat down and did this, I was like, oh, that's what they do. They're spent so much work in ahead of time. It's no different than, say, a speech, but it's much more interactive. Talking with people rather than just, because that may be why that makes me really happy that I did this too. I mean, there's plenty of things that made me really happy about it. Oh, you make paper Halloween decorations, huh? You'll have to show us sometime, Miko. It sounds really cute. It reminds me, one time I made a little picture of a cat, which I put up on my doorway in case there were any trick-or-treaters. Like, it was a black cat, of course. Okay. But yeah, I'm just really happy that I had the chance to do this with everyone. Oh, I know that, Miko. I know that. Yeah, the time will be ripe because the leaves have ripened. I think it did too, Miko. Because I was still kind of, you could hear, I'm sure you could hear it in my voice, how I was a little, I want to say still slightly distraught about it, just talking about my mom. But it turned out to be a really, really positive, good thing uh, to to share that with everyone. Because you can always, I mean, it's always important to remember that you miss someone, but you don't want to miss all of the things that they did, all the stuff that came before, because you're so focused on just missing them. Yeah, I'll definitely need to start doing more of that. I'm actually haven't done it yet, but I have decided that I am going to make a picture for my father's birthday, which is coming up in a few days. Just, I'm not very good at coming up with stuff to draw by myself. So, but I'm thinking of drawing a picture of something that means a lot to him. That's, I mean, because even if it's basically me using something as a model inspiration, I think he will really appreciate it. Like, I hadn't decided yet, but I had this really funny idea of, because he likes Doctor Who, Star Trek, and Star Wars. So, having Baby Yoda peeking out of the TARDIS as an example of something, which is incredibly silly, but at the same time, he would get an absolute kick out of it. And it's not, shouldn't be too difficult to draw, because, you know, Baby Yoda is pretty straightforward. Yeah, things like that. Just coming up. I think gifts like that mean a lot more than just giving somebody a... Oh, true, that's a good point. You know, I didn't think about that. That the you could use that to get ideas of how to draw the picture rather than just using an existing pose that somebody drew. I tend to think in terms of, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Thanks for suggesting it. Like, I don't want to just copy that drawing, but I could use that as an example. And yeah, I haven't decided yet, but I definitely want to do something, a drawing that of my family, basically, including my mom, of course, that I can then share with everyone, all of my family. And yeah, it is. I think it is perfect, Miko. Basically, give a picture, like a hand-drawn picture. It still use the photo as a reference of my dad, my mom, my siblings, and little C even. And just that way they have something showing, because that's not something you just randomly make. You do it because you care about it. Boy, I'm glad I make sure to have a completely full bottle of water, because I am almost done with that water. And chatting streams have a lot of talking in them. But yeah, maybe at some point I might talk about other things. Like, I don't like to talk about I didn't really want to talk today about about how I felt on the day my mom died. Maybe at some point I will, but it's easy to get caught up in talking, like, sharing about bad things that happened is pretty important. But talking about, but it's, you don't want to just talk about, you don't want to talk only about them, we'll say. Excuse me. It's like, if you're only talking about negative stuff, well, yeah, that's true, Gavin. By the way, You talk lots of... Okay, we haven't talked. But you chat with me quite a bit. I always thought of you as being fairly talkative. But no, I mean, I don't. You're right. Yeah, you're right about that, though, Gavin. I don't want to just talk about something that makes you uncomfortable. I would want to tie it to something positive, so that it's not just talking about something that hurt, but that it's like, well, as an example, some of you may remember from my Psychonauts 2 stream when had that. Yes, you're right, Zena. Typing is much easier than talking. I just tend to think of them the same way because I'm talkative and I'm typative. But some of you may remember from my Psychonauts 2 stream, where I had got really sad after a certain scene, and because it was a matter of somebody who was really the reason I wasn't ready to talk about it at that point, but one of the reasons that it made such an impact on me specifically then was because it was somebody who had been dealing with loss, and suddenly had reason to hope again. And that's one of the things one of the reasons I keep doing this is I always want that to be a possibility for me. Like, to have these situations where I can talk about something that hurt and then come up with something positive and amazing as a result of it. Like realizing that my mom, the purpose of my mom's personalized gifts were to show people to show the people that she was paying attention to them, that she really cared about what they were doing, and so on. And, I think that's why that affected me so powerfully, because it was literally watching somebody turn a tragedy into a triumph, or at least into something that could become a triumph. And yeah, that's one of the reasons why I really had to spend a lot of time going through my memories and remembering stuff about my mom and about my life growing up, because it's easy, because I didn't have an easy, wasn't easy for me when I was young. I mentioned the school stuff. That's another thing that I wouldn't want to spend too much time talking about, maybe at some point, but let's just say I know what it's like to be in a situation where at best you feel like you have to endure it and hope that it gets better on the other side. But at the same time, despite that, I was able to, because of my mom's constant support and encouragement, I was able to end up turning that around and going, this is important to me when I went back to school. And as I mentioned, not just graduating, but graduating with honors, and that's on top of the not particularly good grades I got the first couple for the initial school stuff. Excuse me. Yeah, I think my throat is drying up, so I believe this is a good point at which to wrap up. Thanks, Evignan. I really appreciate you coming and chatting with me. Speedwagon, Nini, Miko, Gavin, Cinna, of course. Anybody who was just watching, I appreciate you too. I say that all the time, but it really is true. Having people here, yeah, public speaking is really difficult. It's not just because you have to say come up with stuff to say, but because you have to keep your throat wet. I don't know how some of those people do it, where they talk all the time without water. Yeah, it's just I say this all the time, but and Jason, yes, thanks again, thanks also to Jason. Um, well, to be fair to Cinna, the 5 minutes is about all you're required to do for class speeches. Like you're like a 5 minute speech in front of the class, and then that's it. It's a little bit harder when you're doing something like this, where you have to spend uh, where you want to spend like an hour at least, and well, it's been 2 hours since I started. Um, but just where you're doing that, and and now that I know how to do it, it should be a little bit easier for me to do this in the future. Oh, I see what you're talking about, Cinna. Yeah, that would be a little bit challenging. As far as as far as I remember, you still did pretty good. I mean, in being able to do that. Of course, as a teacher, you did have the option. Excuse me, the option of having us. You had to work pretty hard, I should say, to make stuff, materials ahead of time for the class, and that's why you could keep talking. And yeah, and that's where the chatting thing, that's where the whole spend time coming up with stuff to chat about ahead of time has made such a difference. Because I won't deny, I had some notes. I my memory is good, but is quirky. Can randomly remember stuff from things that I haven't thought about for months or years, but I'll forget where I put my keys, or my brain will have stage fright happen, and we'll just sit there and spin around for a while going, what do I want to talk about? What was I talking about? Oh no. So yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. I'm sure it happens to every Nyan. I sympathize completely because let's just say, being in theater, I know all about stage fright. One of the reasons that the actors have to spend so much time rehearsing is so they can work out the stage fright ahead of time. That's why you see things like dress rehearsals and such, because you get the chance to put it together, but without having the do it in as if it were real with some people there, but without the stress of what of worrying about bombing the performance. Yeah, a big hard drive, but not a lot of RAM. I hear that. It's great to have a big hard drive, though. You can really, really remember stuff. But you can't. Uh, it's hard to produce it on the spot, especially in a situation like this where you are trying to keep what you were just saying in mind. Although I've gotten much better at that. Some of you may remember when some of my earlier streams, I constantly lose track of where I was. Maybe not constantly. That's not fair to me. But lose track of what I was saying and then just move on to something else. Nini would point that out a couple of times to say, ask a question, trying to prompt me back to go to what it was, and I'm like, oh, sorry. But I think I've gotten a lot better at that. And it's because I've been practicing with the VTubing. Because I have been spending the time chatting. Like, I've been taking the opportunity to practice chatting. Yeah, oh, Cinna, you never disappoint. Phenomenal cosmic hard drive. Itty bitty RAM settings. That was a funny scene. I remember that. Yeah, something I had kind of got lost sight of. My mom also did, like, one of the reasons I really like, I haven't really talked about it much, but I like sci-fi, especially Star Trek. my mom, especially when I was growing up, before the next gen stuff came on TV, would watch Star Trek a lot, like the taped episodes, and I watched them too. And it was very silly, but quite good. I mean, you gotta remember, Shatner had this really stilted way of talking. It's just he worked so well for the brashness of Captain Kirk. And he also had the McCoy, who could be the grumpy old fogey stereotype of a doctor, but still actually could get the job done, and Spock, who was the perfect Sukomi for Kirk being the bokeh, we'll say. I mean, it wasn't like a stand-up comedy routine, but that's how I always thought of the two of them. Um, Kirk did strange things. Spock reacted to them in a completely, uh, why did you do that type of situation. And I got a little bit off subject. Not off subject, but Star Trek's funny. Oh, jeez, Cinna. Hey, Miko, have you ever thought about going and becoming a starship doctor? Dr. Shamiko. That would actually be pretty funny now that I mention it, now that I'm thinking about it. Ah, yeah, as I recall, I was wrapping up, but that's the fun thing about chatting streams. You don't have to stop. Let me go ahead and restart that music. I just noticed it stopped. Yeah, it's great, isn't it? The whole idea of just one thing I wanted to do at one point, and just kind of got sidetracked on, is there is a scene in like there's a game called Advance Wars, which you may or may not know is a turn-based strategy game, which I won't go into too much detail, but uh, the box art has three of the major Orange Star characters in a tank, on a tank, riding it, and it's hilarious. So I had this idea of drawing drawing several VTubers there. I need to get back to finishing that, but doing things like that, like doing a starship, like a Starship Crew thing with VTubers I know. That would be actually pretty funny. Yeah, I can show you the basics that I did. I've still got the line art. Just too many things at once. I think the reason I stopped doing it is because Inktober. Unfortunately, it's really difficult to continue with art. Like to draw projects like that when you're busy trying desperately to draw a thing a day. I mean, I think Inktober needs to be this thing where you just draw every day and you post what you draw. But don't worry, they do the prompts so that you can have something to draw every day, even if you don't have any ideas. But I feel one of the things I did for last Inktober, and Miko knows this, is I actually drew, like, I started drawing a picture that was based on a kanji, and I just pick a different thing every day. But the end result ended up being this big picture of a landscape that just happened to have kanji all over the place. And I think that's a great idea for Inktober. It's much more, I mean, there's nothing wrong with drawing from prompts, and it's really cool when people can do it. But making something that has a bunch of disparate elements. Yeah, thank you, Miko. I understand completely. It's really easy to get caught up in stuff, especially with the whole work, do, and deal with real life stuff. Oh, sorry, not real life, because this is real too. I mean, I am really doing it. You're really doing your stuff. And you work really hard, Nico. So don't think that people don't appreciate you for it. Um, that's the point. I mean, you do your best and you keep doing it and help inspire other people to do stuff and, and be inspired by them in turn. Corporeal life, I like that. I really do like that. That makes a lot more sense. Because the only term I could think of it was like outside life or something like that. Because outside the computer, that was back when I was more into VR, which reminds me I need to get back into that at some point. But it was like the VR and then VR life and outside life. But corporeal life with the in the quote unquote physical plane rather than the computer is important and can't be ignored. But you can't just do that. I think that's where a lot of people get lost in. They spend so much time on the corporeal stuff that they lose sight of the stuff that makes life fun and enjoyable to do. Yeah, I completely get it. I agree with you. I don't like the idea that, like, even people who write pure fiction, that's real. Um, oh, F the real, I like that idea. We can call VTubing the F the real plane. Gavin, don't you know you're not supposed to do that? I suspect anybody who did that will have a "and they were never heard from again" caption at the end of that. Uh-oh, I think Gavin's gonna disappear on us. Oh well, Gavin will be back one of these days. Yeah, I like that. Ethereal, because, that's actually what the ethereal plane, the ethereal thing was intended to be. It was the stuff that was outside the corporeal, not the corporeal physical existence. And the truth is, and a lot of people don't realize this, is that things like fiction, VTubing, performance, anything that's not, like, doesn't have a direct physical counterpart is still real. Like, music, I mean, people mistake a lot of that stuff because a lot of that, it seems to. Like, you can hear the music, that's corporeal, we can hear it. But the truth is, the feelings, the way that the music makes us feel and inspires us to do stuff is not because of cannot be properly explained by corporeal stuff. So I like the idea of thinking that way. That's like, that's like how, like, music from, like, anytime you hear a piece of music that makes you really excited and inspired, that's why. Oh, interesting. I didn't hear about that. Dreams, memories, and stories are all being stored the same way. And yeah, you're right. Because, I mean, people's memories are important, but this is going to be funny. I don't often talk about my dreams because I so seldom remember them. But despite the fact that sometimes they are a little bit disturbing, I don't think of any of my dreams as nightmares. I had a dream a couple of days ago about how it was a really weird thing, and I didn't fully understand it after waking up. But it was like, I woke up and I was like, oh, okay, I'll remember this. And then went back to sleep, and I remembered it. Because I woke up, and then was like, it's not time to get up yet, and went back to sleep. It was like a situation where someone, like, I guess aliens, would periodically come to Earth and bombard places that had like this, I don't remember what it was. I want to say it's like dangerous technology, and just like flatten them. So the dream was about people setting it up so that the flattening would only happen in certain specific places. It was just like completely bizarre, off the wall, what you expect from dreams. the and like then instead of having like huge widespread flattening, you'd only have these little tiny spots, and then it'd be easy to rebuild afterwards. So yeah, and then the dream from the night before, I think I mentioned the smoke alarm decided to start beeping in the middle of the night on me. And I didn't wake up for a while because I usually don't get to sleep till pretty late due to my job. And I ended up dreaming about calling maintenance to get the stupid alarm turned off, while one of my coworkers, who somehow lived in the building, came and asked me what was going on, and I was like, yeah, I'm talking with maintenance trying to get this thing shut off. It's very, very silly. But yeah, I think you're right about that, Miko, that the stories and dreams are just as valid in their own respect as memories. In fact, in some respects, they're more valid. And that's also true. Yeah, it's so silly. Dreams can be incredibly strange sometimes. Maybe I'll start remembering them more now that I've gone over this stuff and realized how connected things really are. But I think what you said is also true, because memories are not static. Like, people change their memories by accessing them. Like, if you don't remember things the same way at any given time, and the more you think about them, the more you remember them, the more your current thoughts and emotions all shift them a little bit. So it's just interesting that you said that that's probably why people can be inspired by stuff that's just pure music, stories, etc. Music helps bring out things like stories. Like, one of the reasons that I find certain kinds of music really inspire me is because the music brings back the feelings that came with the story that I heard the music on. Like, one of my favorite sequences is, if you've ever seen Wreck-It Ralph, you know the scene where Ralph is, where they're doing that, they're finally got that race started, and then they have to deal with the bug invasion, and how the music was set up to play as a story. Like, those tracks were only used for that sequence. They were used in sequence, and then they weren't used again. And I mean, that was near the end of the movie. But the point is that because of the way that was played, I could always mentally, when I heard the one, I was like, oh, that was it. So I could always remember how it felt to watch it. And that's kind of like what you're talking about. So yeah, that's a little bit of an interesting digression from the original subject, but truthfully, this is also celebrating my mom's life, because she loved this sort of stuff. I mean, she was really big on stories and such. Like, and one of the things which I never understood for a while, she loved villains. Like, absolutely loved them. You know who her favorite character in The Lion King was? It was Scar. Because Scar was the interesting one who made stuff happen. Oh, I see, Miko. Well, we will have to correct that, because I just happen to have Wreck-It Ralph. And I can show it. How's that sound to you, huh? Yeah, the villains, I mean, Wreck-It Ralph perfectly symbolized the the situation. Ralph was the villain of the movie, well, of the game. He wasn't the villain of the movie, but he was the villain of the game, the bad guy who actually made the game happen. It's like, I won't go into too much detail, but you know enough about it. You know how he left his game temporarily because he was so upset at how none of the other people in his game would really respect him and what he brought to it, and felt that he had to show them that he was good. Well, it took him longer than he thought to get back, and well, that made the game look like it was malfunctioning because no Ralph, no breaking stuff. Oops, game may be out of order. It was actually pretty funny. How it really underscored and emphasized how important the villain is to things like this. How you don't have a story without the villain. Period. I mean, it can, but that's what slice of life is. But in general, you have people. It's like, I think there's a thing in storytelling where you need, if it's too smooth, nobody remembers it because it's just, there's nothing there for your brain to catch on. Villains, and just in general, it's like you need roughness in the story for your brain to catch on, and then those are what really make them memorable. So that's why people will love villains, because the villains provide that. And you see the same thing in like slice of life when there's no true antagonistic villain. Like you'll have somebody who is playing the foil in that case. Like they do something which maybe messes stuff up, maybe they just need to fix things. The point is it makes something that your brain can hook onto rather than such. Conflict, yes. Yeah, I couldn't remember the specifics, so I'm glad that you brought it up. And yeah, I think you can actually have two different kinds of conflict with people. You can have conflict that is deliberately caused by like a villain, like somebody who is doing it, and then you have conflict which is caused by accidents. Somebody made a mistake. Like, oops, it's like, oops, the cat knocked the plate off of the counter. We need to get that fixed before mom gets home and gets mad. Yeah, there's conflict in slice of life, and no conflict. You can have stuff with conflict, but the conflict needs to be somewhat rough. Like it can't be too easily solved. Otherwise, it's like there's nothing there. It's too smooth. So yeah, that's interesting to think about this now. Because, I've spent so much time watching my mom's plays, and I knew the general, because I'd studied some theater, knew the general way, like rising action, falling action, climactic action, and etc. But I never really thought about it much besides this is how stories are made. Yeah, the incredibly smug rival in an idol anime. I believe, Miko, you probably remember too, but the whole situation with the super famous idol group, the one that were at one point like the French show was basically put on as the lead act, and they were like trying to snipe one of the zombies, the zombie idols, because she looked like their old center for obvious reasons. And being that, yeah, Iron Frill, that was it. I knew it was something iron, I just couldn't remember what. And she, even though she wasn't villainous, she provided that conflict that they needed for that episode. Because it's like, at that point, it's like, oh no, what do we do? Ai's gonna want to leave us for her old idol group. And it's like, it's not how it worked out. But it wouldn't that would not have been as memorable of a story if it hadn't been for the lead of the Iron Field group, who was like, "Oh, I want I to be part of our group now." Well, and she's so good, she doesn't need to be part of this group. Which is like, you want to boo her because of that. It's like, it doesn't matter how it doesn't. I mean, yeah, okay, maybe she's got a little bit of a point, but at the same time, you don't want her to do that to them. They've got to enjoy it. Like, they're a group. They've got to stick together, and so on and so forth. Things like that. You don't see that as often in, say, Slice of Life. Like, one of the really good Slice of Lives is Hidamari Sketch, which I've watched with Cinna. There is very limited conflict in that. I mean, there is, but it's usually environmental conflict, environmental personal conflict, like Cinna was saying. Like, they will have something happen that causes them to have to work hard, like having a class assignment, or somebody getting sick, or meet the parents situation, like with Hiro and Sai once, I believe. And Hiro's parents are freaking out because they think their daughter is seeing a boy, and it turns out it's Sai, who is a girl. And it's like, it's just funny the way that ends. It's just, you know going in that the conflict is not actually there, but it looks like it is because they take it so seriously. You're right, Miko. I believe you're right. Many non-Western stories have substantially less conflict. I mean, sometimes they do. You'll see that in a lot of the Shonen Jump shonen anime. Like, just shonen anime in general. But the better ones of them, a lot of them, the quote-unquote villains, are not villainous. Yeah. Oh, did I say Sae? Okay, yeah. I thought I was saying it Sae, but I guess not. Sorry, Cinna. But yeah, I mean, like Haikyuu, which is one of my favorite anime, it had obviously, because it's a volleyball anime, you have conflict between the teams. Each team wants to win. But at the same time, they can still be friends and have good times when they're not actually playing to win, like when they're training, or when they're just out and run into each other. It's never a matter of them being it's not that kind of conflict. Bakuman, which is another of my, I've never seen the anime. I should at some point, but I really enjoyed the manga. Is kind of the same way. You have conflict between the manga artists because they're competing to see who can do the best. They don't want to have their comic get cut for the magazine. But at the same time, it kind of goes back to what I mentioned earlier. They don't realize this for a long time. I mean, that the whole rival thing is actually making each of them better because they have the rival to bounce off of. Like, the people who they want to surpass. Not that they want to hurt the other person. In fact, there is one story where they actually do have that, where they have somebody who wants to win at any cost, and pretty much every one of the previous cast members, they literally will not stand for that, and they all join up to basically prevent that from happening. And it just shows how foreign that kind of villainous thing is, and how it actually kind of, I mean, those two, there were two individual little stories, and they were actually my least favorite. Like, of the series, because the rest of it was all collaborative conflict rather than just conflict because you want to win. So it ended up being, it's just really interesting when you look at this and you see how it's all connected. Because that leads back to what I mentioned earlier about how you are inspired by other people, so you do stuff that helps inspire other people still. And then that just keeps going, keeps expanding outwards. Like some of the manga artists became manga artists in that story because they were inspired. Okay, yeah, honestly, I think it's been getting close to 3 hours, and we're not that far from the anime night, which is in about 2 hours and 20 minutes. Let me go ahead and link my Discord for anybody lurking who would like to come and watch with us tonight. We're starting season 2 of Demon Girl Next Door, which starts a completely new arc. Instead of trying to quote-unquote unseal some of the silliness that happened in the first one, it is literally Shamiko pursuing the magical girl to make her into a dark magical girl. Yeah, before anime night. So let me link my Discord really fast. And if you want to come and visit or just want to come and chat with me, feel free. I am really enjoying chatting with people on there. It's a nice, fun place to talk about stuff. You'll see people talking about the AI-generated art, or some of the stuff about video games, or about cats, and so on and so forth. Yeah, I think at this point, I think it is a good time to wrap up. I was ready to wrap up. I was thinking of wrapping up about 40 minutes ago, and then we ended up talking about more creative stuff, which, that's the point of chatting. It's fun to see where stuff like this goes, rather than just sticking to an agenda. Yeah, I had a really great time with you all, with every Nyan. It was just, this just having the chance to talk with you all, share the stuff with my mom, how she made such a difference in my life and inspired me as a VTuber and as a person, is really incredible. Yep. So I've already thanked every Nyan, but I'll do it again because you all deserve recognition. Thanks, Speedwagon. I appreciate the suggestion about the music. I probably would have remembered it, but I'm not very good at remembering stuff, so yeah, it was really helpful to have you say, where's the music? Thanks, Miko and Cinna and Nini and Gavin, and Jason also for chatting and just being here and companionly. I really appreciated it. And I'm glad that I got to share all that stuff with my mom. Oh, you were chatting, Gavin. You were chatting. I think you really do like to chat. Well, okay, chat with text. I'm not going to, I won't tease you that much. Because I don't want you to feel too put upon. But it is nice to have you here. You, as the saying goes, just because you don't say a lot of words, the words are still pretty meaningful, and it means a lot to me. So don't feel bad if you don't have to feel like you have to say a whole bunch of stuff. Just, I'm very glad to have you here. I'm very glad to have you willing to talk with me and help and come up with comments, which usually make me laugh. Alrighty, so we'll go ahead. I think today, I'm not sure if I want to actually do a raid. I like raiding, but I feel going and raiding somebody just to follow the usual Twitch thing, I want to just say, I feel like I like rating people, but I don't want to feel like it's something like, in this case, I feel that it would detract a little bit from the way that things worked. I mean, that, and sometimes it's just fun to say, thanks everyone, and go ahead and call it there. But yeah, so about 2 hours from now, a little more than 2 hours from now, we'll be doing Demon Girl Next Door in my Discord. I'll be looking forward to seeing everyone there. Thanks again, and I will talk with Sin if we want to do something tomorrow evening. And other than that, I will wish you all a good afternoon and have a comfy weekend. Otsukiri. See you real soon.